we have the Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation has now sought to determine that the term homosexual is now considered outdated, an outdated clinical term considered derogatory and offensive. So the clinical term for same-sex attraction is considered offensive. And so now they're also going to be known as same gender loving. Come on, y'all. Come on. This doesn't make any sense. And here's why. Right? I said, when we talk about postmodernism, this is what we mean. There is no such thing as absolute truth. And so this is queer theory. This is critical theory in and of itself. There's no such thing as absolute truth. And so gender in and of itself is pretty much meaningless. So I basically said queer theory is rooted in postmodernism. Gender has no definition. According to the left, you remove the term homosexual, which means same-sex attracted, the words describing sexuality are basically meaningless, which is amazing that a gay and lesbian alliance would erase what gay and lesbian actually mean, right? Gay and lesbian means same-sex attracted. I've been saying for a very long time that that the Q seeks to erase the LGB and the original T standing for transsexual, because those are based in absolutes. If you can make it so it's gender attraction, which is basically meaningless, then you say that there is no such thing as sexuality. If there's no such thing as absolute truth, then there's no such thing as sexuality. And so this is what they did. Remember, this is what they did with transsexuals back in like 2014, right? It used to, so the T used to stand for transsexual, meaning that you had gender dysphoria and you transitioned to appear and be perceived by society as the opposite sex. When they changed it to transgender, they said that it was basically that you could not, that you were not, that you didn't identify with your birth sex. Anything that didn't identify with your birth sex, which created the whole non-binary situation and everything like that. And so where are we at now? Everything, transsexual, and then forget, at the time, they have also said that the term transsexual, and if you actually look this up now, they say the term transsexual is an outdated and offensive term. And so by me and Blair and Buck and Marcus and all the other people that consider ourselves transsexuals, they say that's why they say that we are transphobic, because we don't subscribe to the situation where we don't subscribe to the transgender. So if trans means anything and gender is meaningless, so transgender is basically meaningless. Anybody can be trans if they say they want to. That is the tenets of queer theory. It's where the basis of queer theory lies. And so this is not, this is not anything that should surprise anybody, really, because this is erasing the language that we use. Now, if you ever notice, when I write pieces or I speak, and even when I'm on this show, I use terms very deliberately. Because and if you didn't see, actually, about when I was on Timcast about a year ago on the after show, we talked about a lot of this stuff. because I said that trans women are a subsection of men, because otherwise you would have no definitions, right? A man is an adult human male. A trans woman is an adult human male. So just based on basic knowledge, basic biology and everything like that. So if you don't do, like, you would have zero definitions if it wasn't defined as a subsection of man, right? So a man is an adult human male. So there's only one way you can define that. Because that's an absolute statement. So gender is not absolute, is basically what they're saying. If gender is not tied to sex, then gender is not absolute, which means it's basically meaningless. So if you subscribe to the definitions, I always use the term males anyways. So when I write, we always mention it's males. So a trans-identified male is a trans woman. For specific clarity and factness. So if you take away, so when we talked about this too, if you talk about a trans woman dating a man, that is in fact a homosexual relationship. But I also subscribe to the fact that I don't necessarily think it's apt to call it a gay relationship simply because a person is attracted to trans women and women. They simply like the female form, but it's not a completely straight relationship. This is something that Blair White's talked about in the past too. I think that there's some nuance there. It's not straight. It's more of its own sexuality. So this in and of itself is erasing. This is just the next step in queer theory to push forward. And James Lindsay actually responded as well to the Gays Against Groomers tweet, and said he's been calling this happening. He knew this was going to happen. And I mean, if you've seen James for quite a while, if you watched him on Rogan last week, James has been he's the expert in queer theory. Obviously, I pride myself in knowing quite a bit about what's going on in queer theory, but James really is the expert. And they did just put out a new book. Let me see if I can actually pull this up. James, he just put a new book out. Where is this? Wrong one. I'll shout this out because James let me. Here it is. We're going to shout James Lindsay's book out real quick. They put out this book. I think I might have talked about it before. The Queering of the American Child, with Logan Lansing and James Lindsay. Go check it out, because if you really want to see where all of this is heading and what where it all comes from, this is great, because this takes all of the queer theorists, the Judith Butlers, and it even dives into John Money and Kinsey and all of the evils that they were involved in, all of that. This book goes down in there, and it talks about the cult that is queer theory. So shout out to that book. Go check it out. It's a good one, and it really explains what we see happening in this situation. Because the fact that, I mean, this is what, the second time in 2 weeks that we talked about Glaad. Right before I went on break for the week, I had the week off. We talked about Glaad not wanting to accept the study that came out that talked about how puberty blockers are not fully reversible is not fully reversible in that sense. So, yeah, kind of done with the. It's really interesting because these big organizations try to put everybody into they're trying to make everybody queer. That's their goal, which by definition is not the goal. That's not a goal, because by definition the term queer means weird. So everybody can't be queer. Queer means weird, which I saw somebody pointed out. I can't remember who it was that I saw pointed it out. Actually said, so the term homosexual is now offensive, but the term queer is not. It used to be the opposite. It used to be one was the actual term that you refer to same-sex relationships. The other was something that was a derogatory slur that people would use about gay people. So now it's flipped. You got to make that one make sense. I don't get it.